On Anchor, Breaker, Spotify, Radio Public and Pocket Cast, this is WorldOne from V Studios. Hello there, welcome to WorldOne, the new podcast from V Studios. Hello there, I'm Viggo Brightfast, your host. You might recognise me from Under Review, my other podcast. This week I'm starting a new podcast, it's obviously called WorldOne. This is Series 1, Episode 1. So I hope you enjoy it. Today we're going to be talking about statistics and their effect on the world. Now, let's get started. Enjoy. I always don't know exactly what to say when I hear statistics being announced on the news. Obviously, it depends on the statistic. Whether it's how many people in Winchester have cats, or how many light years it takes to get to Jupiter. With the first one, for instance, it is quite simple. This, I think, is because you have something to base a perception on, like the population of Winchester. With the second one, not so people know exactly what to base a perception on. Well, I guess there are some other planetary values, but it's still hard to perceive. So what do these statistics actually mean, you might ask? Well, that could be a hard question to answer. I'm not going to give you an answer because I don't have an answer. In other cases, in this I refer to the cats in the Winchester statistic, it can be easier. Please notice there I do not say easy. Look back to the beginning of statistics. Say, the first one was the population of London, or something similar to that. If no one had heard any statistics like that before, they wouldn't have anywhere to base any perceptions. What I mean by this is that they have no prior knowledge on what a high number would be, an average, or a low. So they wouldn't be able to make a decision about which category the statistic would fall into, and wouldn't know how to view it or class it. So when you put out new statistics that haven't been put out before, or even when you put out a statistic counting the same thing but give it a different name or advertise it in a different way, think about the public reaction. You might get little notice because no one really knows how to perceive that, what category to put into, like high, average or low. So they can't make a decision on how to view it. Or you might get huge press releases, reviews, criticism and generally spark a debate, which is a good result. So in my opinion, that's good. The press then might encourage people to know what to think, and even though it might be biased, they at least have an opinion, which is good anyway, or something to base an opinion on. It makes people think or rethink or take stock. So if you do start releasing some statistics, if you go into doing that, or just big numbers that get people to think, consider these, I would say. Who is this aimed at? Who do I want to take this into account? Has this been released before as a different number, for example population? Will it therefore get a better public reaction, a press reaction therefore? Who do you think, public or press, will have the greatest reaction towards this? And what do you think people will think about this in general? Personally, I believe that when some organisations publish big statistics, they go into the effort of doing surveys and analysis, etc., they realise when the public see it that no one knows what it means or how to view it. For example, if you are counting the phytoplankton in the square metre of the Pacific for the first time, no one, save maybe the scientists running the first survey, will know what to expect and how to perceive the end result. And also the difference between repeat counts of, say, the amount of ants in Bournemouth might also not mean loads to some people. Yes, that's random, I know. If you want to view it this way, which I do, then consider the value of meaning. What does meaning mean to us? What is the meaning of meaning? I think that if we have a mental bank of various meanings, we can get better and better at filling up this so-called bank of meanings. So what different statistics mean is a good addition to your personal meaning bank, because this meaning bank could power intelligence and wisdom, and generally power your brain. I'm not saying this is the only thing which powers these things, and is like one way of looking at things, but it's definitely metaphorically fuel. When I think about this kind of thing, I often refer to or take some concepts from Reddit Pullman's His Dark Materials and Book of Dust trilogies, almost magpies and stuff, as some people call it, where dust, with a capital D, is a mysterious concept belonging to each one of the characters. Also, demons, with that weird A/E squash letter thingy, I don't know what its name is, which are creatures that belong to each character that are not pets, but similar creatures that project something meaningful and are the opposite gender to the character. This is a concept that came to great acclaim indeed. But also it's very complicated, at least I find it that way. So, back to statistics. What do they mean for wisdom and intelligence, if anything? Well, I think it is a good trait to be able to perceive and consider what different things mean, in this case, those things being statistics. But other things too among these require the same amount of thinking and careful consideration to be taken properly and seriously. If you are a Book of Dust reader, you will have seen that in Book 2, The Sacred Commonwealth, there are two controversial fictional books within the story that are both popular among the characters, one by Gottfried Brandt and one by Simon Talbot, both fictional characters, as I said. They try to strongly defy the existence of one thing or another. Brandt defies the existence of meaning and demons and dust. It's basically anything like imagination. So these books conflict, as you all have seen. A non-reader, you obviously won't know about these exactly, and I recommend you consider reading the Philip Pullman Book of Dust trilogy, called a trilogy, but there are only 2 books so far, that one coming soon. It's great, along with His Dark Materials, which is a masterpiece of a series. So back to reality, and we are getting at something. It is important to publish statistics that people can properly have a perception of, that preferably isn't biased, or better, not based on a biased opinion, and best that is unique to that person. We all have a right to our own opinions and for them to be heard by the world and taken into account. After all, it's a human civil right in the United Nations and everywhere, of course. So, all in all, I think it's important to have perceivable statistics be published to stimulate brains and get people perceiving and thinking hard about things, and generally taking stock. And also, statistics, as I think is already thought out, need to be universally accessible as key. If anyone wants to perceive anything, they have to be accessible. Everyone must be able to access the accurate numbers and be able to have a, hopefully unbiased, opinion on them, no matter their background, gender, race, ethnicity, or age. This all comes down to equality as well, and racism, sexism, etc., and just general human rights. As ever in fighting for equality, access to information counts too. But thinking back to my first point on publishing statistics that are universally perceivable is also important. I think it's impressive how many interesting and mind-boggling statistics that are published, while being equally amazing how many statistics that are published and are completely not perceivable. So they might not even be pointless to be. They might just even be pointless to be heard by the public, even in a detailed press report. So as to think you can see the problem now, or even both of the problems. But even if the second is solved, you normally won't have just solved the second one. So, to sum it up, I would say statistics have to be universally perceivable. That is it for this week. You just listened to episode 1 of WorldOne from V Studios. We will be back next week with me again, Viggo Brightfrost, your host. Please do, well, if you can tell us what you think, but it's not so much like kind of you might not publish it to the podcast. We might mention it, but not make such a feature out of it, although we'd love to. So underreviewcast@gmail.com, same email as under review, and anchor.fm/worldone, and you can click on voice message there. Thank you for listening this week. And so as I say, well, just hope you enjoy this week, and we will be back every week or so for another episode. This one was episode 1. Please subscribe or like or follow wherever you listen to WorldOne, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.